Morning. I'll start with the recording. Okay, good morning and hello to CSL Greater Pittsburgh. I'm very happy to be here and thank you, Marianne, for this privilege and this honor. As I was preparing my thoughts for today, I was thinking, what is the most important thing regarding peace that I would like to share with you today? So in reflecting on that question, I went to the articles in the Science of Mind magazine. I think it's going to be backwards on the screen, but the title of the magazine is Pieces into Peace. And there are some very good articles in this magazine this month regarding peace. And one of them that I particularly enjoyed was by Joanne McFadden. And the article is titled, Let Peace Well Up and Flow. And in it, she quotes Ernest Holmes from his book, Your Invisible Power. And the quote is, "Peace stands at the door of your consciousness and awaits your acceptance of it. However, it does not stand outside your door, waiting for entrance, so much as it stands inside, waiting to be expressed in everything you do." So that's the idea that I hope you'll take away from today's message, that peace isn't something that we wait for from the outside to come into our lives, but rather it's something already within us, awaiting our expression of it. It's our choice as to whether we express that peace or not. As Marianne said earlier, I used to live in Denver, Colorado. And one of my early religious science ministers was Reverend Dr. Roger Teal. And he spoke on peace many years ago. And there are a couple of ideas that I'd like to share with you that he mentioned. He talked about the artist Vincent van Gogh. Now, Vincent van Gogh is one of my favorite artists too. His paintings are colorful and dynamic, and they touch a very deep place within me. And I think that must be the place that Van Gogh was trying to reach. Because the truth about Vincent van Gogh is that he was a tormented individual, despite being an incredible genius. You may remember that in a fit of depression, he cut off an ear and he eventually committed suicide. So despite tremendous gifts, the practical power of inner peace was missing in his life, and it eventually became his undoing. It's a sad thing, and it's equally sad for all of or any of us if we miss this thing called inner peace. Joshua Liebman wrote a book entitled Peace of Mind, which is a classic now. And in it, he told the story that as a young man, he made a list of all the things he wanted to manifest or demonstrate during his life. So he wrote down talent and health and wealth and fame and power. And he was very proud of his list. And he showed it to his rabbi. And his rabbi looked over the list and complimented him and said it was a very fine list. But he said, "You've left out one thing. And without that one thing that you have left out, your list is an intolerable burden." And so with that, the rabbi took the paper and he crossed out the list. And across the front of it, he wrote, "Peace of mind." Then he summed it up with this little prayer. "Dear Lord of the universe, heap worldly goods at the feet of foolish men, but on my head pour only the sweet waters of serenity. Give me the gift of an untroubled mind." Isn't that what we really want? A deep, unshakable peace that comes from an untroubled mind? A deep knowing that in spite of any circumstances in our lives, God's got us. Whether we're sick or healthy, God's got us. Whether things are going well for us or not going well, God's got us. Whether we've got what we want in our lives or not, God's got us. I mean, imagine having all the things you want in your life and still feeling anxious, worried, despairing, unsettled, maybe even unfulfilled. Would any of this matter if you felt that way? They wouldn't, would they? The misconception is that if you get all the goodies in life that you want, you're going to automatically find your peace, your inner peace. But that's not the way it works. We sometimes think if I could just get more money or have better health or greater success or power or fame, then peace of mind will accompany them. But it doesn't work that way. It's just not going to work that way. Peace of mind is one of the most important things in this life, but it's not a byproduct of other things. But when we embrace it as one of our most important and valuable goals, something happens. Something happens when we make peace of mind the central focus of our lives. That makes everything else more attainable and more satisfying. Some people have thought that peace of mind must be kind of a lax or lazy way to build your life around, that it's kind of an escapism from life. But on the contrary, peace of mind is a source of great energy and creative participation in this life. It sets the stage for the lifting up of the finest and the best qualities within us. It embellishes and empowers other things. For example, the mind is most efficient when it's calm and poised and cool, not when our minds are overheated. The ancient philosopher Seneca said, "The mind is never right, but when it's at peace with itself." A sure way to stay frustrated with your problems is to bring an overheated mind or an overheated intellect to them. It's the saying, let go and let God. And that tells us what we must do. This past week, I picked up this little book. Again, it's probably backwards, but the title is Let Go and Let God. And it's a little booklet written by Christian Larson, who wrote The Pathway of Roses, that you may be familiar with it. So I read that book this week, just coincidentally, and then Hurricane Helene decided to come this way. So I've been practicing that. I did my treatment work that everything would be safe in my area, and then I practiced just letting it go, leaving it to God. And it wasn't easy. I'll have to tell you that it wasn't easy. As the rains and the wind bore down on our area, I had to keep strengthening that muscle of peace. That's what challenges can do. They give us a chance to strengthen those muscles of faith, peace, and calm. So first, you locate that sense of peace. And then you let that peaceful mind bring out the best in your thinking. It lifts us up intellectually. It even affects us physically. Many, many problems we now know are stress-induced. So ultimately, we can see that prolonging peace of mind should be along with the best miracle drugs or miracle cures, because it has produced profound peace in people. For example, recent research shows that prolonged states of peace of mind in heart patients has been shown to serve as an anticoagulant in their systems. Emotionally, we're enhanced by the practice of peace of mind, and we certainly need that in this fast-paced, high-tech life that we're living. A lot of people feel like they're just walking on the razor's edge. There's not a lot of patience or tolerance felt by them. Life's pretty challenging and risky, and there are so many demands, and we're vulnerable to many pressures and pitfalls. It's been a rocky road in this life for many people. like the husband who was talking to his wife and said, "You know, honey, I've taken you so safely over all the rough spots of life, haven't I?" And she said to her husband, "Yes, dear, I don't believe you've missed a one of them." So sometimes that's the way our life seems, doesn't it? I heard of an article by a sociologist that suggested that as a species, we are entering into the quantum age with a Stone Age emotional development, and that's pretty dangerous. And then we notice individuals who have discovered the elixir of inner peace. And whether it's through meditation or personal growth or spiritual programs, they discover something. And just as Jesus calmed the winds and the waves and the sea, they discover that with a sense of inner peace, they can calm the storms that have devastated their own lives. So that's why inner peace is a practical force that can affect you at every dimension of your being if you allow it, if you choose it. Perhaps that's why the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius said many centuries ago, "Man must be arched and buttressed from within, else the temple wavers to the dust." So man must be arched and buttressed from within, else the temple wavers to the dust. So how do we find this inner peace? Well, I think that one way is to be aware of the inner conflicts that allow us to disturb and assault whatever inner peace we may have found. There are three big ways that we can disturb our own inner peace that I'd like to bring to your attention. The first one is guilt. Guilt over things that we've done or things that we haven't done, things that we've left unfinished. So are you dealing with any of that? Something unfinished that you haven't forgiven yourself for? You can't find a sense of peace if you're going to continue with that pattern of guilt. Another thing that disturbs our inner peace, if we have a sense of inferiority. Are you continuing to prop up the old mistaken idea that the universe made you less than? The universe didn't make you less than or more than anyone else. We're all equal children of God with unique and precious gifts to give. Now, I don't know what your gifts are, but I do know that they are beautiful, and I know that you have a right to be here. But I also know that if you choose to, you can continue believing in your inferiority. But thoughts are things, and if you continue to think that way, it's going to be difficult to sense that peace that is within you. And of course, the biggie of all biggies is fear, especially that low-grade fear we call worry. That's a very bad habit in us. We just worry, and then we even worry about our worries. And that doesn't help, does it? We choose, am I going to indulge in my fears, or am I going to know something deeper about me? So guilt, inferiority, and fears. When we understand that these are just bad habits that we have continued to perpetuate through our thinking, then we can turn and develop a positive, powerful program that can bring us into a deeper sense of peace. We don't have to be constant victims of guilt, inferiority, and fear. We don't have to be. You can become so anchored in the peace within you that it becomes natural. It becomes your new habit. And it's only occasionally that you'll stumble into that old stuff and get to practice challenging your muscle of faith to strengthen that. You can affirm, I joyously release the past. I am at peace. I know you're muted, but you can still say it with me. I joyously release the past. I am at peace. So how do you do that? I think the most important thing is in our society is to slow down and get centered. So often it seems we're living our lives on the outer rim, the outer surface of life, and we're spinning around like crazy. If you've ever watched a wheel go fast, you see that it's very frenetic on the outer rim. But if you look at the very center, there's hardly any movement at all. It's like that in our lives too. The outer may seem frenetic and crazy and busy, but we have a still place within us that we can always go to. Have you visited there lately? It's a place beyond thinking, really, but thoughts can take you there if they're positive and purposeful. It's a place beyond all the other stuff of life, a place of stillness. And it's there no matter how choppy things are at the surface of your life. You can look at the ocean and you can see that it's very frenetic when there's a storm about. But just a few feet under the surface, it's still, it's very still. We are like that too. When we slow down, we go beneath the surface of our frenetic, choppy lives to that still, quiet place within. We can go home to the center of our being and just be there. Now, pragmatists may say, well, what good's that going to do? When you come out of there, your problems are still there. Yes, but when you come out of that place of peace, you are different. You are different. And that's what makes all the difference, because life is lived from within out. Pascal once wrote, all man's miseries derive from not being able to sit quietly in a room alone. That's sometimes very tough for folks. We live in such a fast-paced world, such a stimulating world. And just to become still and find that center, just be, can feel almost threatening and uncomfortable when it's actually the most natural thing in our lives. We just have become estranged from our center. A great metaphysician, Jack Addington, coined that phrase, outer rim, that I used. Here's a quote from Jack Addington. We all get caught up in the confusion that results from whirling around too fast on the outer rim of life. Then we need to go within and become still and contemplate that inner peace that's never confused, never in a hurry, never disturbed. It is the truth of our being. It only awaits our recognition of it. Do you know that place within you? Are you familiar with that? It's still there. It's still waiting for you. It's a place that is never disturbed. It's never confused. It's not guilty or it's not inferior. It's not feeling afraid. If you're able to gravitate to that still center of your being and be still, you'll find that peace. It says in the Bible, be still and know that I am presence, that is God. That God life is found in stillness. And when we achieve that center, we become powerful in ways that we can only imagine when we're looking for our power in things of the world. We become truly, authentically powerful. And that leads us to the next step, developing a spiritual program to support us in finding and keeping that peace. Ernest Holmes said, peace is the power at the heart of God. Nothing can bring peace but the revelation of the individual to himself and a recognition of his direct relationship to the universe. Let's close with a prayer. Dear Spirit, in this moment, we do come to where we belong. In this stillness, we are pulled more and more to center, where there's nothing to do, nothing to think about, just to be. It's here that more and more we come to know, thou art my beloved child, in whom I am well pleased. I will never leave you or forsake you. All things are possible with God, with our God self. I have not given you a spirit of fear or guilt or inferiority, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. Accept this now, stand on this now, and all things will unfold in God's divine and perfect order. We will know that something is at work in us that feels solid and connected. We're no longer swaying in the wind and in the storms. We're rooted in the peace that passeth understanding. May this peace lead us forward. And so it is. Amen. So when we come from that peace inside of us, we bring the pieces of peace together. We find the peace within us. We bring that peace to our relationships, our community, and our world. So be blessed and do your piece for peace. Thank you.